So Shang-Chi is now in theaters. Let's talk spoilers. What's going on, guys? I'm Chris. Welcome back to another video. Today I'm joined by my lovely lady friend Cam, as always. We're going to be doing a full spoiler discussion and review of Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. So if you have not seen the movie, definitely click off, go watch it, then come back and watch our talk. But if you don't care about spoilers, welcome to the talk. Spoilers in 3, 2, 1.
So the first 10 minutes of this movie are literally in Chinese. You don't even notice. Because it's so good. You just get a whole background lore legend on the Ten Rings and Wenwu, who is Shang-Chi's dad. It's so funny to me because quite literally on Twitter and TikTok, everyone was like, oh, I don't know if I want to see Shang-Chi. He doesn't have powers. It's going to be boring. He's going to be lame. Literally, the first thing they say about the Ten Rings is that it gives you the power of a god. The whole first part of the movie, we're getting background on Shang-Chi's dad and how he's this power-hungry guy with the 10 rings and all this stuff, and then he has so much and he just wants more, so he tries to find this legendary land called Ta Lo, and that is where he finds Shang-Chi's mom, and they have this really dope action scene. Very much Avatar Last Airbender vibes, if I do say so myself. She beats his ass.
She does.
There's a shot where she's pushing him down and he's looking up at her, and then we get a shot of her face, and then by the end of the movie the exact same shot happens with Shang-Chi and his dad.
Yeah.
And it's very moving.
One of the cooler callbacks. Of course, we cut to present day. We're in San Francisco. We see Shang-Chi's a valet driver.
Dope music. Absolutely fire.
The score and soundtrack both in this movie, it gets you hype. Especially after we get introduced to Katie and Shang-Chi. They go and have karaoke and stuff like that. They're not afraid to have a good time. We get the first action sequence on a bus where the first time we see Shang-Chi use his powers and the score kicks in. The clip's on Twitter, I think, or it was released a while ago on Twitter. So dope.
It's so funny.
Boom, 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 boom.
Just the way it's introduced, where Katie's like, does he look like he can fight, bro? And then Simu has one punch to this dude's chest and you send him flying backwards. And then we're introduced to Razor Fist.
The comedy there is good. I thought the streaming was funny.
Oh, yeah, that dude. I'm pretty sure he's the guy from Homecoming where he said tell Spider-Man to do a flip.
I didn't realize that.
You're the guy from YouTube. Which is weird, though, because he was in San Francisco, not New York. Did you think that we were going to see something with Ant-Man when they're in San Francisco?
Yeah, I thought we were going to see Luis. So, when Katie is driving the bus and they, finally come to a stop, I thought that for a split second, the person she looks at was going to be, Luis or Scott.
That'd be really funny.
Instead of, some random driver. But, yeah, it would have been funny.
I thought about this when we were watching the movie the first time. It made me really sad. I feel like that driver would have been Stanley. That would have been his cameo, probably.
It probably would have been. So, the main plot early on in this movie is that some of these people from the Ten Rings organization are after Shang-Chi to find the pendant that he has that he was given by his mother, in addition to the one that his sister has, because Shang received a letter at the beginning of the movie that he believes to be from his sister to meet at this certain address. So after we get this bus scene, they go to this hotel that has a bunch of scaffolding on the outside. There's a fighting tournament going on, and that's where we see Shang-Chi fight his sister, but before that, we get our little look at Abomination Wong.
It looks like Wong and Abomination are friends or working together or something. It says something along the lines of you're gonna learn to control those punches.
And then also he name drops his name, Emil Blonsky, that's the Abomination. They have a friendship or they've been working together, and after we see them open a portal, they go off somewhere. So I'm interested to see if Wong shows up in She-Hulk, because we know that Abomination's confirmed for that. But moving on from that little cool fan service moment.
We had a fight sequence between Shang and his sister. I think her name is pronounced Yaling. But the fight sequence is really cool. I'm obsessed with his sister. She is the definition of gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss. I love her so much. She's so funny.
Her powers are pretty cool too when she's whipping around that chain thing with the dagger at the end.
Oh yeah. She's really cool.
That's awesome. So there's a cool action sequence in that hotel, and then go into Act 2. By the way, up to this point, the movie's perfection in my eyes. It's 5 out of 5. I was so locked in, and we're at the hour mark now. And then we go over to the Ten Rings compound, and then we get introduced to the funniest character in the movie, and arguably the most redeeming factor in the MCU. We see Trevor again, who played the Mandarin in Iron Man 3, which I absolutely hated. I hate it less now because they bring him back and he's freaking hilarious in this movie. Yeah. Every line is comedy gold in my opinion, and he had the theater laughing out loud both times.
I thought it was an acting gig. Turns out the guy that hired me was an actual terrorist. Yeah. What's his dog's name? Morris?
Yes.
Morris is
and it's some weird fantasy creature.
It's it's so funny because
no face.
Morris comes out of nowhere and Katie and Shang-Chi freak out. They're like, what is that? Because it has no head.
Yeah.
And he's like, what's what? And he's like, they're like, that. And he's like, you can see Morris. Morris, they can see you. Katie calls it a chicken dog, which is the funniest thing ever.
This could loosen people, this part of the movie. This is where we go to Ta Lo for the first time.
Yeah.
And we see this fantasy world, very like Harry Potter, I'd say.
It's interesting because the way they get to this place, it's through a maze. It's a really cool car sequence.
Yeah.
And then they drive through a waterfall.
I wish I was that f***ing cool. Oh my god, I just realized we're actually in that car chase scene you were just describing.
Then they come through this like water portal that opens up exactly like a Doctor Strange portal does.
Yeah, the second time we saw the movie, you went like that.
Because it opens up exactly like that.
It looked pretty cool though.
It's like Doctor Strange meets Avatar: The Last Airbender, kind of.
They were like earth bending, air bending, and water bending in this movie. I don't care what anyone says.
I love
this
it.
This is like the Avatar movie we deserved.
They go to Talo. We see a bunch of really cool animals. And then we meet Shang-Chi's aunt.
And Guangbo. Justice for Guangbo.
So true. We get a whole exposition background on what they're going to be fighting in the third act of the movie, which is the soul sucker.
Mega soul sucker. Yeah.
Big mega soul sucker and a bunch of tiny soul suckers. And we get a lot more background on the Great Protector, which we hear earlier in the movie where Simu's mom is like, you have the heart of the Great Protector. And I really liked the way they did the telling, like the background story for this movie. It's like just panning like a whole like wooden carving cutout.
Yeah, and I missed it the first time because some idiot was rubbing his hands together behind us in the theater making a ruckus.
Yeah.
But I caught all that exposition this time. I was like, okay, this makes so much more sense.
When he missed that the first time, he was like, what was the point of, what was that thing that came out of the wall?
Yeah.
And why was the dragon fighting it? Like, if you miss that exposition, like you miss like the whole third act of the movie. It's very crucial.
There's a lot of cool training sequences, and Katie gets a bow and arrow.
Which she does.
But what you guys really want to hear us talk about probably is that third act showdown. It's epic as hell, Cam. When they're like facing off against each other, and then Wenwu turns around and he's like, or burn it all or something. And then they just charge at each other. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's going down Game of Thrones style, damn near.
It kind of is.
And Shang, the scene where he gets his suit with the dragon scale, that is so sick. That's a clean suit.
So sick. He's fighting his dad. They're talking while they fight. Is so good.
Yeah, and what is the line he says?
Very chilling moments. He has his dad on the ground, and he literally says, because the whole thing with the dad is like he thinks that he can bring the mom back to life.
Yeah.
But he can't. It's just like the soul sucker is tricking his mind into thinking he can. And so Simu has his dad on the ground, and he literally goes like, even if you could bring her back, what makes you think she would want anything to do with you?
Yeah.
Because he's become like such a bad person.
Yeah.
And I was like,
one of the best lines. And then he gets launched into the water, and of course, who does he see? The Great Protector.
The Great Protector.
Yeah.
Cool. I love dragons. If I had a nickel for every time Awkwafina was in a movie with a dragon, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot. But it's weird that it happened twice.
Shang gets out of the water. We see another final showdown. He gets half of the 10 rings, and his dad has half of the 10 rings, and they're fighting with him. And that is sick. It's some of the coolest visuals in the movie. It's very Doctor Strange-esque, I'd say, when it comes to like the visuals. But that showdown is satisfying, in my opinion. When we see Wenwu eventually die, he gets the soul sucked out of him. I originally was like, I wish they had more resolution. I realized I was distracted and wrong the first time around because there's a lot of great resolution. He has the flashback to all the memories, and then he gives the 10 rings over to Shang right before he himself passes. It's a great final moment, setting up that final battle that I think is a little unnecessary.
Did you think that I was silly when after we saw it the first time, I was like, no, the payoff was really good with the dad?
Yeah, because I missed all the freaking details because the dumbass behind me in the theater. So everything's great, right? There's some cool action going on, and then the Dark Gate breaks, and we see this massive Soul Sucker come out, and then we see the Great Protector come out, and there's a big CGI fight like something out of a Godzilla movie that wasn't the most necessary to me because the final battle between Shang and his father was already emotionally gut-wrenching and it is satisfying. I feel like that they just had to do that because they might have had the budget, and we're like, we have to have this showdown. It wasn't the most necessary thing, in my opinion. It really wasn't.
I feel like it didn't necessarily add anything, but also didn't take anything away. I think the main reason for it was to show us how Shang-Chi is going to use the 10 rings.
Yeah, fair.
And how he's like good at that.
Fair, because at that point, like the emotional weight of the movie had been taken care of. Like there was already resolution with the villain, and that was just like, let's give you guys a little more action. It's one of the lamer parts of the movie, but it's still really good though. I liked it. I don't love that sequence.
I didn't have too much of an issue with it. What I did really like though was upon second rewatch, it was much easier to like grasp and understand. I think it can get kind of confusing because they're fighting like in a lake, so there's like a lot of water splashing around, and I think there's a lot of water splashing around because that kind of helps mask the CGI, because I think 2 dragons fighting each other is a really hard thing to CGI. But when you watch it the second time, you already know what you're looking at, so you know what to look for. But it's only like honestly 5-7 minutes, not even.
There's no need to throw it in there. They just had to do it, and I get it. Like you want this big CGI fest battle.
Katie had to save the day, bro.
Yeah, she did. Rip Guangbo though.
I know.
My man had to go. That's basically the end of the movie. There's like the heartfelt moment where they send like lanterns. It looks like something out of Tangled into the water. And then we cut to Shang and Katie in the bar, and they're talking with their 2 friends from earlier. And they're just telling them the story about everything that happened, and they're kind of like, oh, you're making fun of me or whatever. And then I'm like, oh my god, Doctor Strange. For a split second.
Did you really?
Split second.
Oh.
Wong comes through a portal. He's like, Shang-Chi. He's like, here.
It's funny. That's like one of the most realistic things I think Marvel's ever done. Wong comes out of the portal and the whole restaurant, he's looking around. He's like, Shang-Chi? Because he doesn't know what Shang-Chi looks like, which is so realistic.
So yeah, Wong comes through this portal, and then Shang-Chi and Katie go with Wong, and that's how the movie ends. It cuts off, but before there's a funny line, he's like, I'll Venmo you for everything.
Yeah,
that was funny. That was relatable
like,
too.
I'll text you, we can catch up later.
That was relatable too. So then that's how the movie ends, and at this moment in time, I was like, okay, that was pretty good. I'm interested to see what this insane post-credit scene is. The post-credit scene rolls around, and it's Wong with Shang and Katie, and they're talking about the 10 rings and how it's set off like a beacon. Mm-hmm. So we don't really know what that's about. Someone's out there.
Yeah.
And there's a beacon, but that's not the most important part. We see Bruce Banner. He's not Professor Hulk anymore. He's normal, and he's got some gadget on his wrist that looks like maybe he figured out how to switch back and forth. My theory is this was during She-Hulk, and where She-Hulk can take place before we figure out how he can get it under control. And then we see Captain Marvel.
Yeah, we also see Captain Marvel. Wong is trying to figure out what the 10 rings are made of, I think. And he has Bruce and Carol there because Bruce is like a scientist and Carol has been to like a shit ton of other planets. They're experts in their own fields. And then Carol like gets a call and she's like, guys, I have to take this. Like, you can get my number from Bruce, whatever. And she leaves. And it's like a funny bit that's played off. But I think low key, maybe the call might have been something about Miss Marvel.
Perhaps.
Her hair is long. So time has passed.
Time has passed. I would love to see the shows, both She-Hulk and the Marvels, the film and Miss Marvel, the show, tie into that moment somehow. Then we see Wong and them, they go have karaoke. So it just basically shows Shang-Chi is going to be around with the Avengers, if you will. That's really all there is to it, and someone's out there. Now, the second post-credit scene, it's fine.
It's chill for within the movie.
Yeah.
It's basically Shang-Chi's sister. In the movie, we hear him say, like, oh, she went back to shutting down, like, the 10 rings. Yeah. She's making it stop. And then the post-credit scene is she is not doing that. She is, in fact, building it up. Yeah. And she is keeping the training going. And then we get a little card screen that says the 10 rings will return,
which I'm assuming they'll probably announce a 10 ring show or something along those lines, maybe a Disney Plus day in November,
which I'm fine with because I think the sister is really cool. Favorite part of the movie?
I love the opening scene on the bus quite a bit, but the fight between Shang and his father before Shang gets kicked into the water is damn good stuff. Those are my two standout moments. What about you?
I like the scaffolding fight the most.
Okay.
I think that's insanely well choreographed for such a weird terrain. And something I do love about it is how realistic Katie is in that fight. So basically she's holding on to the bamboo of the scaffolding for like dear life. Yeah. And she's like going backwards. And the whole time she's just like, oh God, oh God. Which is exactly how I would scream if I was falling off of like a 100-foot-story building. But
that is going to do it for our spoiler talk / review / breakdown, whatever you want to call it, of Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Definitely hit the like button. Comment your thoughts on the movie down below. Spoilers in the comments. Let's spoiler talk it up. Any predictions for the future of the MCU? What was your favorite moment of the movie? Let us know. Follow Cam on all her social medias, which will be linked down below. And Usual Couple Podcast. It's still around, trust me. Thank you all so much for watching. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.